I think the great thing about Bitcoin is, it's been like the highest performing commodity asset in the world. So the greatest source of financial energy in the world. And that means that you can construct a great bond, a great fixed income preferred, a great convertible instrument, a great equity instrument, a great low risk, investment grade instrument. You can sweeten an insurance portfolio. You can improve the performance of a diversified stock portfolio. There are a lot of things you can do in order to improve the outcomes of any financial action. I almost look at it like it's like the sucralose of finance, like the universal sweetener, super high performance. And so there's a world of opportunity in the financial marketplaces if you incorporate the appropriate dose of Bitcoin volatility and Bitcoin performance into whatever instrument you're trying to create.
Are you surprised the US hasn't yet bought Bitcoin?
I'm not surprised. I was surprised that the US has embraced Bitcoin as radically as it has over the last 6 months. I didn't expect nearly all the cabinet members to be so enthusiastic, or the Secretary of the Treasury. I didn't expect the strategic Bitcoin reserve, to be put in place so quickly. I didn't expect the crypto czar to declare that Bitcoin is, the one, global digital commodity in the world and is digital gold. I didn't expect the President of the United States to say never sell your Bitcoin. So those I didn't expect. I generally expect that large governments will move in a plodding, somewhat methodic, not always rational fashion, because there are just so many interests involved. And so my expectations are moderated in that regard. I think most of the aggressive action will come from small, mid-sized businesses, because they have the most to gain, the least to lose, and they can move the quickest.
Michael Saylor's Bitcoin for Corporations conference, hosted by Strategy, formerly MicroStrategy, was more than just a meeting of minds. It was a declaration. Bitcoin is no longer a fringe idea. It's becoming the strategic asset for forward-thinking companies. Sitting down with Natalie Burnell, Saylor tackled the big question. If Bitcoin has all this momentum, why isn't it at $150,000 yet? His answer? A quiet rotation. Legacy holders, bankruptcy trustees, governments, legal estates are cashing out, not because they don't believe, but because they're not in it for the long haul. Meanwhile, a new wave of serious players, institutions, ETFs, and treasury-backed corporations are buying in silently, laying the groundwork for Bitcoin's next explosive chapter. Through it all, Saylor remains unshaken. He's seen chaos before, buying at $9,000 after Bitcoin crashed to $4,000 during past crises. Now, with Bitcoin near $106,000 and markets in panic over tariffs and geopolitics, he reminds us, short-term fear creates long-term opportunity. Saylor makes a bold case for Bitcoin as a superior corporate treasury asset. Unlike gold or bonds, it beats inflation and enhances balance sheets. Strategy is even using Bitcoin-backed securities to fund growth, outperforming traditional investments and inspiring 70-plus public companies to follow suit. But it's not without critics. The Financial Times warned of an infinite money glitch, citing risks from volatility. Still, Saylor argues Bitcoin offers economic sovereignty and financial inclusion, and even suggests the U.S. could use it to pay down national debt. The conference didn't just highlight Bitcoin's rise, it signaled a financial revolution in motion. Before we dive deeper into Michael Saylor's insights, like this video, share it with others who need to hear this, and subscribe for more high-impact Bitcoin and crypto analysis. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
When the rhetoric has changed from the White House and we have the strategic Bitcoin reserve and all these tailwinds, you're buying pretty much every Monday. Why isn't the price at 150 or 200K?
I think we're going through a rotation right now where, lots of non-economically interested parties are rotating out of the asset, and then a new cohort of investors are entering. A lot of Bitcoin was, for whatever reason, left in the hands of governments, in the hands of lawyers, in the hands of bankruptcy trustees, like the FTX bankruptcy, and they kind of had to hold it for a year or 2 years as they're working through their process. And then when they saw this massive market rally, I think a lot of those trustees, they don't have a 10-year investor's mindset. They just thought, well, this is a good exit point to get liquidity. So I think people less committed to the long term have been taking this opportunity to exit the market. And I think a whole new class of investors are entering by way of the ETFs and by way of the Bitcoin treasury companies.
One of the things I enjoy most about talking to you or listening to you is the whole market could be in total panic, fear, anxiety about maybe the macro factors, and you always have this sense of calm about you that things will get resolved. So you're clearly not worried about things that are happening will eventually resolve these global tensions, the tariffs, and it'll be smooth sailing for Bitcoin eventually. That's the read I get.
Every single crisis recruits a new class of Bitcoin believers. There's just a delay in between the crisis and the Bitcoin rally. So, for example, in March, Bitcoin crashed with everything else down to like 4,000 or 4,500. And I started buying it in the 9,000s or the 10,000s. And I remember when Bitcoin was 10,000 and the NASDAQ was like 12,000. And, then Bitcoin would rally up and rage, and then there would be a crypto crash and it came down. And on the other hand, here we are today at Bitcoin's like 96 or 97,000, the NASDAQ 17,000. And now we're in a big tariff crisis. And the near-term reaction is always the market cramps and everybody sells everything. But the long-term reaction is, if I had all my money invested in Bitcoin instead of invested in that company, I wouldn't have been affected by tariffs. And so what you have is a reallocation of portfolios to being more Bitcoin, less the other thing. People are thinking now, if I had more Bitcoin, less gold, I would have made a lot more money in the last 4 years. If I had more Bitcoin, less big tech, I would have made a lot more money. If I had more Bitcoin and less that bond instrument, I would have done better. So these are teaching moments, right? And in any macro panic, the most liquid, leverageable asset is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the only thing that you can sell. You can sell it short with 50x leverage on Saturday morning. It's the only thing that you can short 50x on Saturday morning. So when people panic on a weekend or an evening, it's going to be volatile. And if someone wants to sell some financial asset because of some gloom and doom thing that's happened, they're going to go to Bitcoin first because it's the only thing they can trade. And not just trade in the US, trade globally, worldwide. And so it is volatile because it is useful, and it will be in times of panic and contraction. It will correlate for a short moment with other assets, but then it will bounce back and it will it'll break that correlation, decouple, and it'll rally higher. And that has happened, consistently for the past 15 years. And it's happening right now as we watch it. So I'm calm in these times because I think we're going to win over a new set of Bitcoin believers, and a new set of people that thought they had the perfect business are going to realize that no investment in real estate and private equity and public equity or in a currency derivative is a risk-free investment. And when we say, look, Bitcoin is not a currency derivative, it is not a company, it is not real estate, it doesn't have a supply chain, it has no employees, it has no nexus, it is not, subject to that counterparty risk. Now there'll be a new class of investors that will understand what it means to be exposed to those risks, and they'll be like, oh, you mean like no tariffs on Bitcoin? Mm-hmm. Yeah, no tariffs on Bitcoin.
how well MicroStrategy, now Strategy, has performed on the Bitcoin standard when you put up those charts of just how it's outperformed the Magnificent Seven, gold, bonds, everything by far. It's crazy to me when I see mainstream media still not understanding how powerful this could be for a corporation and not jumping on board and realizing how revolutionary and how visionary you are. When do you think mainstream media will come behind companies like yours that are doing something so innovative that's clearly working?
It's an exponential process. When I was at MIT, I studied complex exponential systems, and they started with an illustration where they say, well, you have a pond, and there are lily pads in the pond, and it takes 30 days for the lily pads to spread across the pond, but they're doubling every day. On what day of the month will you notice you have any lily pads? It's a quick test of exponential math, but you realize the first 3 weeks of the month you don't see any lily pads in the pond. Right? And then you notice a little bit. And then in 3 days of the month, everything happens. And so I think what's happening here is there's a exponential phenomena. You know who understands the value of our business? Our investors. Our investors understand, right? And you met some of them at this conference. And so the reason we announced we're going to double our capital raising program, and the reason the stock trades up when we announce we're going to issue $21 billion of equity, is because the investors understand. They're on the journey with us, and we keep recruiting new investors. And I think there was some stat that I heard from an investment bank. They said, last year, your company was 16% of all the equity raised in the stock market or something. So, we're not half, but the point is one company out of 5,000 companies that is raising, 16% of the capital on the market suggests that there are a lot of equity investors that are discovering what we're doing. And, what I've said about Bitcoin, right? The secret of Bitcoin and the simple, elegant truth, and the reason that it's spreading virally everywhere on earth, and the reason it'll keep spreading. So a lot of smart people in the world, they just want to keep their money. That's the secret, right? People buy Bitcoin because they want to keep their money. People are starting to buy Bitcoin treasury companies like Strategy because we've constructed a very elegant, powerful business model based upon digital capital that strips away all of the dozen risks that are plaguing every other well-run company in the world right now. And so investors are smart. They think, well, how do I get a return and avoid the risk, and what's working? And, more and more are discovering our company every day.
You've pioneered the corporate playbook and you're giving it away. I know so many people are grateful. Any final thoughts?
Just happy to be on the journey with you.
That's a wrap on today's video. Michael Saylor remains ever bullish on Bitcoin, but the question still lingers. Could he be wrong? Could Bitcoin face a massive setback, plummeting instead of soaring? Or will it continue its rise to the moon, proving to be the ultimate money glitch for savvy investors? Only time will tell. What do you think? Could Bitcoin continue its meteoric rise, or is the market setting us up for a major crash? Drop your thoughts and observations in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's financial insights and want to stay ahead of the curve, make sure to like this video, share it with family and friends who need to see it, and if you haven't already, subscribe to get daily updates on the latest trends in the Bitcoin and crypto markets. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.